Peter, I've just joined from my phone. I will be on my laptop. I'm just having some issues in the meantime.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, Thomas. Welcome to the meeting. It's Tammy from the clerk's office. Can you unmute your mic and test your audio for us?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, you're coming through clear. Thank you so much, Thomas. For now, I'm going to put you back as an attendee, and when your item is called 5.2, we will pull you in as a panelist.
That's great, thank you.
Thank you. Hi, Mara. Welcome to the meeting. It's Tammy from the clerk's office. Can we test your audio, please?
Hi, Tammy. It's Mara.
Perfect. You're coming through clear. The same will apply for yourself when your item is called. We will pull you back in as a panelist.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Councillor Medeiros. It's now 7 o'clock. It does appear that we do have a quorum present. We'll confirm that during roll call, and I'll turn the meeting over to you.
Thank you very much, and good evening and welcome to our meeting of Brampton's Planning and Development Committee. We will begin the meeting with the City Clerk calling the roll for attendance at tonight's meeting.
Members of committee, I will call your name. Please indicate your presence. Councillor Dillon. Councillor Dillon, I do not see as present at the moment. Councillor Singh.
Present.
Thank you. Councillor Fortini.
Good evening, I'm here, present.
Councillor Williams.
Hi, good evening, I'm here.
Councillor Bowman.
Present.
Councillor Paleshi.
Hello, present.
Councillor Willens.
I'm here, Peter.
Councillor Visante.
Present.
Councillor Santos.
Present.
And Chair Medeiros is present. There are 9 members present, Mr. Chair. You do have quorum.
Thank you very much. Your next item is approval of the agenda. Do any members wish to add a business item to tonight's meeting?
Mr. Chair, I do have a number of updates I wish to provide to committee about tonight's meeting. I don't see anybody on the board right now, but I'll proceed with the updates the clerk's office is aware of. First of all, there was originally 3 items for which statutory public notice was given for tonight's meeting, and this was given in accordance with the Planning Act prior to the agenda being finalized for tonight's agenda. One particular item was an application to amend the zoning bylaw for a draft plan of subdivision, Glenn Schnarr and Associates, 39224 and 2930 Credit View Road in Ward 5. Prior to publication of the meeting agenda, the application was withdrawn by the applicant with an appropriate public meeting cancellation notice issued by the city. But just to advise committee and members of the public that are participating or watching tonight in case they did not receive that notice. Secondly, we have item 5.2 on tonight's agenda. It's a statutory public notice item. It was originally listed on the agenda in error as item 7.2. With the revised agenda, it has been reordered to be statutory public notice item 5.2, and that's in regards to an application to amend the zoning bylaw, official plan, and a draft plan of subdivision, Glenschnar and Associates, Branthaven Credit View Incorporated, 8940 Credit View Road in Ward 4. And there are a number of delegations related to that item on tonight's agenda. As well, there's item 7.7 listed on the original agenda for tonight's meeting regarding a staff report for an application to amend the official plan, secondary plan and zoning bylaw, Chaycon Retirement Village, Candivcon 9664 Goreway Drive in Ward 8. Staff advised that this item is withdrawn from the agenda to allow staff to consider additional information received from the applicant. We also have on the revised agenda 11.4, a memo from the clerk's office regarding the Cycling Advisory Committee and a recommendation that they've put forward on an urgent basis from its meeting last week regarding advocacy for funding for the Ontario Active School Travel Program. We also have additional correspondence 11.5 on the agenda, a letter dated, two letters regarding item 7.6 on today's agenda, updating the Sustainable New Communities Program, and that was a referred matters item 43-2020. We also have an added delegation which came in just before the meeting started from Sylvia Roberts, Brampton resident, and this is in regard to item 7.3 on tonight's agenda, and that is a report. Bear with me here. 7.3 is a report regarding an application to amend the official plan and zoning bylaw 1317675 Ontario Incorporated, Glenschnar and Associates, southwest of King's Cross Road and Kensington Road in Ward 7. We already do have a delegation on that item, so Sylvia will be the second delegation. And finally, just in terms of the presentation order tonight, the presentation slides from planning for the statutory public notice items, 5.2, which is listed on the slides, is actually item 5.1, so it will proceed first, and then it will be followed by 5.2, which is identified on the slides as 5.1. The presentation slides, when they are published online after the meeting, will be corrected to identify the distinction. And Mr. Chair, those are the updates to the agenda.
Okay, thank you very much. I do not see anyone with additional items, so I do have a motion moved by Councillor Fortuny to approve the agenda, that the agenda for the Planning Development Committee meeting of April 25th be approved. Is there anyone opposed to this motion? I see none. Motion carries. Next item, do any members have a declaration of pecuniary interest under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act for any matter to be considered in today's agenda? Seeing none, the clerk will so note for the meeting minutes. We now move on to consent motions. I'll read out the consent items for consideration. Item 7.1 is staff report regarding city-initiated zoning bylaw amendment, Ward 8. In consent, item 7.4, staff report regarding application to amend the official plan in zoning bylaw, Sunfield Investments. I see none. In consent, sorry. Item 7.5, staff report regarding implementation of approved 2022 budget fee increase for development and site plan applications. In consent, item 7.6, staff report regarding updating the Sustainable New Communities Program. In consent, item 8.1, Age-Friendly Brampton Advisory Committee, March 29th. In consent, correspondence, city-initiated zoning bylaw amendment, Ward 8. In consent. So I have a motion moved by Councillor Pelletier to approve the consent motion, and I'll hand it over to you for a recorded vote, City Clerk.
Mr. Chair, members of committee, and just before we take the vote, there is the added correspondence 11.5 regarding item 7.6, staff report regarding updating the Sustainable New Communities Program. If committee is adding that staff report to the consent motion, they may wish to consider adding 11.5, that correspondence as well.
I'm happy to add that, City Clerk.
Okay, thank you. And a recorded vote is requested on the consent motion. All in favor of the consent motion, please indicate. Councillor Dillon. Councillor Dillon is still not present for the meeting. Councillor Singh.
Yes.
Councillor Fortini.
Yes.
Councillor Williams.
Yes.
Councillor Bowman.
Yes.
Councillor Paleshi.
Yes.
Councillor Willens.
Yes.
Councillor Vasante.
Favor.
Councillor Santos.
Yes.
Chair Medeiros.
Yes.
That motion carries unanimously 9-0.
Thank you. We now move on to our statutory public meetings. And just as a reminder that the city does post to its website, brampton.ca, supporting information, documentation for development applications for public review and reference. And we will now proceed to consider the two items on this evening's statutory public meeting agenda. So item 5.1, application to amend the zoning bylaw and proposed draft plan, the subdivision KLM Planning Associates Incorporated, Greenvale Homes Limited. And I will hand it over to Dana Jenkins. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, Chairman Medeiros, members of council, city staff, and members of the public. As noted by the chairman, my name is Dana Jenkins, and I'm the planner assigned to process and review the subject application. The purpose of this
Just jumped. You can come around and we can stand up and face the audience. Just come around.
Okay.
Sorry, through Mr. Chairman, staff are just going to reposition ourselves within the room here in the council chambers. Thank you.
Oh, they're here too. I see. Okay. Thank you. Good evening, Chair Medeiros, members of council, city staff, and members of the public. As noted by the chairman, my name is Dana Jenkins, and I'm the planner assigned to process and review this application. The purpose of the statutory public meeting is to provide information to the public and to seek feedback on the application filed by KLM Planning Associates on behalf of Greenvale Homes Limited. Next slide, please. The subject property is located in Ward 10 on lands located east of Torbram Road and north of Countryside Drive. The property is municipally known as 2648 Countryside Drive. Next slide, please. Thank you. This slide shows an air photo of the site, primarily agricultural lands at this point, with valley lands at the upper northeast corner. You can see the mixed-use development and the Guruvayan Patan Temple at the corner of Torbram and Countryside. Next slide, please. Here's a street view from Countryside looking to the north. Next slide, please. Will show us a view from Torbram Road looking east across the property. Next slide, please. The proposal with this plan of subdivision is to facilitate development of 128 single detached dwellings, 46 semi-detached dwellings, 79 townhouse dwellings, 1 elementary school block, 1 secondary school block, 1 park block, 1 valley block, 1 valley buffer block, 1 open space block, 3 walkway blocks, and the associated public rights of way. Next slide, please. The lands are currently designated residential and open space in the official plan, with the open space designation again at the northeast corner of the site. Next slide, please. The lands are designated in the Countryside Village's secondary plan as natural heritage and environmental management, valley lands, low-density residential, medium-density residential, neighborhood park and school sites. Amendment of the secondary plan is not required. Next slide, please. Thank you. The designations within the approved block plan 48-2 in Countryside Villages are valley land and channel, open space, park, school, both elementary and secondary, low-medium residential, and medium-density residential. Amendment of the block plan is not required. Next slide, please. The lands are currently zoned agricultural and floodplain. An amendment to the zoning bylaw is required. Next slide, please. This slide shows the draft zoning bylaw amendment, which includes residential single detached dwellings, residential semi-detached, residential townhouse, institutional 1, residential single detached F, and open space. The subject application will be reviewed for consistency with various planning tools, including the Planning Act, the Provincial Policy Statement, the Growth Plan for the Greater Golden Horseshoe, the Region Appeal and City of Brampton official plans, and the Countryside Villages secondary and block plans. There are a few issues and opportunities with the development, including ongoing coordination with adjacent landowners and school boards related to treatment and development of the park site, development of the school sites, and provision of stormwater management pond on lands to the east to accommodate drainage. There are also opportunities to increase the sustainability score where appropriate. The next slide shows the overview of the process and where we are now. The notice of complete application was issued on February 3rd of 2022 and circulated to all departments and outside agencies. Notice of public meeting was issued on March 29th, and we are now at the statutory public meeting this evening. Next steps in the application will be to review and collect all comments from outside agencies and technical reviewers, to advance a final recommendation report to the council for a decision, and staff will contact and follow up any residents who have spoken, written in, or advised of an interest in monitoring the proposal. The report associated with tonight's meeting is available online shortly. The final recommendation will be posted on the city's website in advance of the future meeting. Again, my name is Dana Jenkins, and my contact information is posted on the next slide, along with the consultant for the applicant, Mr. Alistair Shields of KLM Planning, who is in attendance at the meeting if any councilors have questions of him. Thank you for your attention and time.
Thank you very much. City Clerk, do we have any delegations?
Through you, Mr. Chair, we do have Alistair Shields who's registered to speak. Alistair, I don't know if you wish to delegate on this item. I think we have a presentation from yourself. We do not have any members of the public that have pre-registered to speak, but I'll just look in the audience if there's anybody here who wishes to speak on this particular item, and I don't see anybody. Alistair, do you wish to speak to this item?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. I have a very brief presentation that I can provide if any of the councillors or members of the public would like to see it. Otherwise, I'm available to answer any questions you might have.
Okay, so I guess we'll proceed then. Councillor Singh.
Sorry, this is east of here, Ontario, and staff was saying countryside. I thought, am I getting confused there? The applicant's presentation said east of here, Ontario. We just go back. Are we all talking about the same?
Yeah, it's
Through you, Mr. Chairman, Alan Parsons here. Just can confirm through to Councillor Singh the location of the site. Can't recall perhaps what was expressly stated during the presentation, but the subject site is located on the east side of Torbram Road, just north of Countryside Drive.
No, I was referring to the applicant's presentation. He said he had a brief presentation. It said east of here, Ontario on the first. Just want to make sure we're all on the same page. East of here, Ontario Street. So is that a mistake, I guess? Well,
perhaps I can provide some clarity on that through you, Mr. Chairman, through to Councillor Singh. I believe what's noted here is a legal description of the subject site. And when speaking in legal terms, it references Huron-Ontario Street and things relative to Huron-Ontario. So this would be east of Huron-Ontario, and hence the reference. But yeah, in a general sense, for non-legal purposes, yeah, the site is well east of Huron, Ontario, and Huron, Ontario wouldn't typically be used for descriptor purposes, but only for legal purposes.
Okay, no, I just wanted to make sure I'm commenting on the right property, because obviously if it was near Huron, Ontario, it wouldn't be in my wards, but since it is, we're all on the same page, and thank you for clarifying, Alan. Only comment I'd like to make is I noticed it said a bronze. And I know we're looking at the new sustainability metrics today. I think it just got passed in consent. So just to be mindful that, you know, there isn't going to be a new bronze moving forward. And obviously, when we have density, we like to see more sustainable practices implemented. So just to flag that for staff. And if you want to comment, that's great too. But I know for Area 48, we've really been pushing on sustainability.
So just a reminder, Councillor Singh and two members, if you want to frame that in the form of a question.
Yeah, given the changes today, thank you.
Yeah, I think we take the point, but just for future reference. So I think that was in the form of a question I understood there. So Alan, any comment on the question asked?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and through to Councillor Singh as well. So staff really, as always, working on the development applications and the processing thereof. We will have good dialogue with the applicant towards ways in which we believe the sustainability score for the subject applications, you know, could be increased beyond the minimum bronze threshold. So we'll be doing that in this case with this application as well. Thank you.
Thank you. That was my only comment.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Councillor Singh. So I don't see any further speakers, so I do have a motion moved by Councillor Singh to approve the staff report recommendations and applicant delegation. And you'll see the motion. We'll take it as read. Is there anyone opposed? I see none, so the motion carries. We now go move on to item 5.2, application to amend the official plan zoning bylaw for draft plan of subdivision Glenshnar and Associates Incorporated, Brenthaven Credit View Incorporated. And I will now hand it over to Natika Jakiani from our Planning, Building, Economic Development. Welcome, Natika.
Thank you. Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, committee members, members of the public. My name is Natika Jakiani, and I'm the planner assigned to process and review this development application. The purpose of this public meeting is to provide information to the public and seek feedback on the application filed by Glenshnar and Associates on behalf of Branthaven Credit View, Inc. Next slide, please. The subject property is located in Ward 5 on lands municipally known as 8940 Credit View Road in the west part of Brampton. The property is located to the south of Queen Street and to the west on the west side of Credit View Road. Next slide, please. The surrounding land uses are as follows. To the north, there are currently vacant lands proposed for future residential mixed-use development. To the south and east, there are existing single detached residential dwellings. To the west is existing single detached residential dwellings. Southwest of the subject property are lands occupied by Lions Head Golf Club and Conference Center. Next slide, please. The subject site's approximately 3.53 hectares or 8.72 acres. The applicant has submitted an application to amend the official plan, zoning bylaw, and for a draft plan of subdivision for the development of 60 single detached residential dwellings. 3 of the proposed lots will front onto Credit View Road. The remaining 57 lots are proposed along the internal road network, fronting along an extension of Classic Drive and a new proposed street. The details of the proposal are on your screen. 24 single detached residential dwellings with a frontage of 11.6 meters, 33 single detached residential dwellings with a frontage of 12.8 meters, 3 single detached freehold lots with a frontage of 16.32 meters on Credit View Road. The existing single detached dwelling, also known as the Edwin Trimble House, will be relocated on one of the lots fronting Credit View Road, and an internal public road network consisting of 17-meter right-of-way width is proposed. Next slide, please. The subject lands are designated residential in the City of Brampton official plan. The residential designation permits residential land uses, including a full range of dwelling types, from single detached to high-rise apartments. An amendment to the official plan is not required. Next slide, please. The subject lands are within the Credit Valley Secondary Plan and are designated as executive residential. An amendment to the secondary plan is required to permit the smaller lot sizes proposed in the development. Next slide, please. As shown in the graphic, the applicant proposes to amend the official plan from the current executive residential designation to low-density residential 2, which reflects the draft plan of subdivision proposed dwelling types. Next slide, please. The property is currently zoned as agricultural. The zone permits agricultural uses as defined by Section 5 of this bylaw, as well as non-agricultural uses, including single detached dwellings and group homes. However, an amendment to the zoning bylaw is required for the proposed residential development to accommodate 60 single detached units. Next slide, please. As shown on the graphic, the applicant proposes to amend the zoning bylaw from the current agricultural zone to single detached site-specific residential zones, which reflect the draft plan of subdivision proposed dwelling types. Next slide, please. Prior to finalizing recommendations to Council, the application will be further evaluated for consistency with the Planning Act, Provincial Policy Statement, Growth Plan for the Greater Golden Horseshoe, region, and the city official plans. Next slide, please. At this time, preliminary issues that will need to be addressed include compatibility of the development with the existing executive residential community, as the development proposes a change in the maximum density and lot sizes on subject lands, the alignment, width, and design of the classic drive right-of-way, as the application proposes a reduced right-of-way of 17 meters, relocation of the existing residential heritage dwelling, also known as the Edwin Trimble home. These issues and others that are raised will be addressed in a future recommendation report. Next slide, please. The next steps in this application are staff will continue to review the application, including reviewing comments from the public and technical comments, advance a final recommendation report to Council for a decision. Issues raised will be addressed in a recommendation report. Staff will contact and follow up with those residents who have spoken, written in, or advised of an interest in monitoring this proposal. Next slide, please. The report associated with tonight's meeting is available online. The presentation will also be available online shortly. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact myself, my manager, or the applicant. The applicant is Colin Chung from Glenschnar & Associates, representing the owner, Brandhaven Credit View, Inc. Thank you so much. This concludes my presentation. Hope you have a lovely evening.
Thank you very much. City Clerk, do we have any delegations?
Through you, Mr. Chair, yes, there are 5 individuals that have pre-registered to delegate, and there may be more that wish to speak that are in the audience this evening. So the delegation list at this point is Satinder Malhotra and Gurpreet Malhotra. If they are present, they can come down. And they'll be followed by Nash Jivraj, followed by Parmajit Chahal, Phillip Lee, and Dennis Leger. And we'll start with Satinder and Gurpreet. Please come down to the podium. Come to the mobile podium, yes. And just a reminder that you have up to 5 minutes to speak. There is a timer in the chambers. There'll be an audio beep at the end, but I'll give you a warning at 4 minutes. Okay. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Can you all hear me? Sorry. It's fine. Good evening, everyone. We are here as a community because we have serious concerns about this entire planning proposal that has been given here. I just want to mention that there are many, many issues, but I would leave my other friends to speak about some other issues, and I would start with something that I would like to express myself. When we came to this area, the first thing that struck us was the greenery, the countryside-like setting, and despite that, it was very much part of the city. We had options to buy houses bigger than this in other areas, but we opted this because of its unique features, because these are the estate lands. the executive residential lands, which we assumed would be there forever as promised by the initial builder. We have a little bushy area between the farm and our property, and it is an entire ecosystem in itself. We see flora and fauna in its full glory. We see rabbits, squirrels, chipmunks, variety of birds, occasionally even turkeys and raccoons. And there's total biodiversity over here. I'm not trying to be poetic, but these things mean a world to us, to me, my family, and all of us who are representing the community. I shudder at the thought that when I would look out my window, I might see bricks and mortar instead of the blue sky. We are pragmatic enough to realize the importance of development, but at no point should it be done at the cost of above issues. We have been paying high taxes and high prices for homes only because these are the unique features of the area that attracted us. There are other issues as well, predominantly being that of the crowding of vehicular traffic. No mention of any park in the proposed plan with so many houses, and no resemblance of proposed houses to the surrounding area. We can and would be elaborating on these issues in subsequent times when we get options, probably in the delegation meetings or whenever we get a chance. Thank you so much. I would give the mic to my other fellow community members. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. The next registered speaker is Nash Jivraj. Nash, please come forward. You have up to 5 minutes.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Nash Jivraj. This is one of my first times to come around here. We've been very fortunate till this time. We have been living in I've been there for original owner for over 20 years since it was built. I had a chat with Mr. Canef many times, and his wife, Didi Canef. In fact, she handed me this house when we did the closing. Anyways, get to the point. Mr. Canef really looked after his properties, and he had other interests as he was doing in the last little while around this area. He would pop by and have a look at it. At the same time, his son, Danny Canef, I know him personally. Anyways, our concern, or my concern, or the group's concern at this point is the size of the lots and the amount of homes that are proposed to be coming in there. And at the same time, we don't know what kind of a theme these houses are going to have. Are they going to be in keeping with the plan that's originally stated out for, or is there going to be a different kind of design happening? We haven't been receiving anything, or there is a proposal, or I'm sure the planning committee has been reviewing, or must have had some kind of I guess you guys have a criteria, but I would hope that you guys in keep with what's around the neighborhood. Number two is the number of lots that are there. 60 homes are pretty much, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe it's a 6-acre lot. If I could, I believe there's 10 acres behind us, there's 6, and there's 4 acres. 4 acres facing Queen Street, which is owned by a different party, and this is the 6-acre. I could be totally wrong, but anyways, 60 is too many. I'm not an engineer or by far a planner. There is the road that's proposed, Classic Drive, coming through this property and weaning through the other side of the other Lionhead estate. And I see that the two properties that are there, there's a road going through. But there is no differentiation. There is a line that's in between the road with the two developers. So I don't know what the proposal from the other developer it is, and when and how would that be opened up, or what's the plan in that situation? Right now, I believe it's the flow-through, which we are pretty much opposing. We are, in fact, tight, very tight in our subdivision because we had an added, 20 homes that just got in there on Classic Drive, and it's very, vehicular traffic is very congested. So, suggesting an exit at Credit View Drive rather than going through the Classic Drive entrance and exits would be very much in favor. There was a mention about a Trimble house. I didn't get that part. I guess we'll have to pick that up on the later stage. That was going to be relocated on Queen Street. Not aware of that. And
You have 1 minute, Nash. 1 minute remaining.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
You have 1 minute remaining to
Yeah,
speak.
okay, thank you. Yeah, since those roads were processed or were allocated, Classic Drive, 21 years ago or prior to the planning initially, we have outgrown that because there was no mention of the extra houses that came out on Classic Drive on the south, on our side, and at that time the planning probably worked for it, but at this point, and they never anticipated to have 60 homes in that pocket of land. So I think those roads that were planned then are not sufficient. I've seen the 99-page submission that was made by your traffic consultants or those engineers, and I think, I believe there is a lot to be desired there. Thank you.
Thank you, Nash.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Paramjit Chahal. Paramjit, if you please can come down, you have up to 5 minutes.
Hi, good evening to everyone. My name is Paramjit. I am the owner of 8930 Credit View Road, just left-hand side of this property. My main concern is on the Credit View Road, on the east side of Credit View Road, house number 8976, 8956, 8930, 8910, 8900, and 8892. These all houses are minimum 100 feet or more than 100 feet. And on Credit View Road's minimum requirement is 65 feet lot. Then now builder is making the 3 lots 59, 60, and 60. One, it's only 16.7 meter, which is only 54.77 feet. I don't know how you will allow the builder to make 55 feet the house size over there. Because I built my house just last year, and 2 years before I approached to the city to do the surveys for my house, but they told me no, it should be minimum 65 feet. You cannot make the 2 lots on your house because I have only 100 feet. So my concern is that to make minimum 100 feet lot size house on the Credit View Road. And second, on the right side of my boundary, there's a trees. I think there's around 50 trees which was planted in 1974. And that tree, I want to keep that trees because when I did the excavation, city told me to keep the minimum 15 feet excavation away from that tree. So I did that one. So I want builder to be excavated to the other side, minimum 15 feet from there, so we can preserve that tree. And second, the third thing is the entrance from the Credit View Roads. When the Canoe built the house 20 years before, you can see in the Brampton maps also, both sides on the Classic Street, it's written that roads to be extended. If the builder built the house on the back, then the traffic that it can be diverted to the Queen side also and to the Pride Court also. If we bring all the traffic to the Credit View Road, and then there will be the stop sign on the George Robson, which will be only 500 feet away from the Queen and Credit View, and then there will be the red light. It will cause the congestion of traffic, and the cause of the accident also. So these are my main concern. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The next registered delegate is Phillip Lee. Phillip, please come forward. You have up to 5 minutes.
Hey, good afternoon, lady. No, good night. Good evening. My name is Phillip Lee. I moved to Brampton in 1991, and I love this city. Unfortunately, I had a car accident back to 2005. So I like to have a better air quality, less traffic, and make the community safer. I think 60 houses may be kind of too many, because after the car accident, I stayed at home most of my time and kind of retired. Now I'm fully retired, so I would ask the city give another thought, maybe go further, do a little bit more study, and make it very short. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. The next registered delegate is Dennis Leger.
Good evening, councillors and invited guests. My name's Denis Leger. I live at 37 Classic Drive, and it's part of what they call the Lionhead Estates, and it's actually in Brampton's historical hamlet of Springbrook. We live in an executive home, lots, and as such, we pay heavy taxes. We pay these taxes for our community and the way it is designed. Homeowners in our area are all executives, business owners. There's several doctors, there's lawyers. They're all people that wanted to have this type of community. We're all built on minimum 50-foot lots to 75-foot lots, not smaller than that. Our developer that is presenting tonight wants to change our quiet neighborhood and build 60 lots, 60 homes on 38 to 41-foot lots, which the homes will be small, and with the only access to it is through Classic Drive, which is off of Credit View Road. My issue is development should reflect the community in which it is being built. We have no parks in our area, well, direct area. There is no sidewalks. And the additional homes will be a serious problem in impact on our developments. The second is when you look at 60 homes and you say the average home has, people will say in a survey 2 cars per house, but let's face it, here in Brampton, there's often 3 or 4 cars per lot. That means there'll be 150 to 240 cars that will access through our community. And let's remember, like, these homes are multi-generational home. A lot of these smaller homes will lease out their basement, so there will be a lot of cars. But there is a solution to all this also, is by extending George Robinson Drive, which is at the end of Credit View Road, which could be used for the community that they want to build, which we're opposed, because it is designed as an executive residential area, and it should stay as such. You can turn small areas of Classic, like the Low Road of Classic Park, that can become a park if they did make another exit. And you could also make another exit to Queen Street on the northern part of the property, that if they talk to the other developer and make an access to the Queen Street. I have 3 retail locations here in Brampton, and I believe Brampton needs to grow. I'm not against development whatsoever, but I think we have to reflect of what we are doing and make sure that developments are made accordingly to the areas in which they are being built. I can give you an example. If you look at Main Street, there's some gorgeous, nice, huge, older homes on big lots. what, are we going to allow somebody to buy one of those homes, move it out of there, and build 4 small homes in the middle of that area? It doesn't make sense. So my point is, we are in an executive residential area. I moved to Brampton. Many of my friends says, look at Orangeville, look outside of town. I found this nice community 2 years ago. I bought the house. One of the first mornings, my wife says, I hear cows. And I said, come on, there's no cows here? And sure enough, there was a farm right behind. And it was funny because it was something strange to see. And we can complain and say, you hear cows, you smell the cows. But that farmland was there before we were there. They have the right to maintain their area. And such, we should have the right to maintain our own area. We were there before this developer wants to build these smaller homes. It is an executive residential area and should stay as that. And let's not forget, about 150 to 240 cars coming out of our community. That's the only way out they have. And we have to stop that. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. I'm just going to look in the audience, see if there's anybody else who wishes to speak. If you do, please come down and you will sign in. There is a book on the little table next to the podium. So please sign your contact details so we can follow up with you after the meeting. Members of the committee, somebody is coming down and they're just going to sign in and then they'll address committee. Can we just please state your name for the record, and then you have up to 5 minutes to address committee. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Cheryl Roy. I live at 2 Champion Court at Lionhead Estates. This development is just off Queen Street, Lynx Lane, and Queen Street. I am representing about 89 homes, which is over 200 residents that live in this area. Some of the previous speakers spoke about their subdivision, which is also part of ours, but located on the other side between Credit View and the Lionhead Golf Course. I have been living at this home for more than 20 years, about 21 years. At the time when we bought it, we were promised by Kneff, Mr. Kneff, that only similar executive type housing would be put up, would be constructed. Any new builds in the area would be executive. As you can see, as it's reflected from the other streets, Royal West Drive, Elburn Merkel, and all the other surrounding streets. And that it would also remain a low-density area. We've enjoyed living there. It's sort of a gated community because we have only one road that leads out to Queen Street. There's only one way out. And it's horrifying to know that Classic Drive, they are considering linking Classic Drive with this new subdivision of 60 homes, which would mean that another additional 120 to 200 cars would be coming through our vicinity, through our area, in addition to the already 200 cars that we have in our subdivision. We live in the historic hamlet of Springbrook, and this is one of the nicest pockets in Brampton, as everyone knows. So it just boggles my mind why the city of Brampton and the powers that be would allow this to happen. Folks here have invested a lot of money into buying their homes, maintaining their homes. On Lionhead, there are new estate homes, huge homes on Credit View, on Queen Street, and similar type housing would, I think, should be slated for this area. We pay hefty taxes. Most of the owners in our subdivision pay business taxes, huge business taxes, are entrepreneurs, doctors, lawyers, professionals, And our concerns are very valid and should definitely be taken into consideration. In fact, we have a petition going, and within a matter of 2-3 hours, the last time I checked, we had 75 signatures, maybe even up to 100 by now. This is in a matter of hours. So I can tell you this is going to be, we're going to fight this and even obtain legal counsel if we need to. Thank you for your time and your consideration.
Thank you. I'm just going to check to see if there's anybody else that wishes to speak. If you've already spoken, you can't come again. So, Mr. Chair, we do have somebody else that's coming down. They're just filling in the sign-in sheet. You can just state your name for the record. Please proceed.
Hi there. My name is Peter Baxter. I live at 13 Classic Drive in Brampton, and we are the last home siding onto the farm that is currently there, the project, the property in subject here now. As we've all stated here, we've enjoyed living in this estate subdivision. The other thing I wanted to bring up is that the subdivision, when it was built 20 years ago, had 2 separate areas. So there's one where you exit off of Queen Street onto Lynx Lane, and then the farm itself, the other part of the property was built south of that farm, okay, on the south side entrance from Credit View onto Pride Court. So you've got these 2, basically separate subdivisions that were built by the same builder with the same lot size, homes, and so on. And in between, you're going to put something that's going to be radically different, much more high density. I mean, it just kills the look of the area, for one, and not to mention all the other issues that have been brought up about traffic and so on. But what we would like is to just see some continuity. And I believe all the lots that we live in now, I think the basic lot is 70 foot wide by 140 deep. Some of them are a little wider and pie-shaped and so on, but we would like to see a similar type development for that area. The other thing I wanted to bring up, and we've talked about what we don't want, what we do want as well is some green space. I also moved here 20 years ago, and I certainly remember going up and down Credit View quite a bit. And lots of big trees. If anybody went down that path for all those years before it was built on Credit View, lots of big trees. Many of them had to be taken down. I'm wondering from an environmental standpoint if we can't just take some of that area, this current farmland area that's being proposed to be developed, and just add trees and some parkland space in there. There's lots of animals in that area as well. They need a bit of refuge. We see not only birds, coyotes, all kinds of wildlife passing through, and obviously the more we build, the more we squeeze them out and push them onto the roads and so on. I just got to think we can do better than what's been put forward here. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who wishes to speak? Please come forward. Just fill out the register, and then you have up to 5 minutes to address the committee.
Hello, Council and the members. My name is Vipul Shah. I am living on a Lynx Lane. I moved to this community around 5 years ago. And as my neighbor said, the reason we moved to this community because of its unique appearance and the nature, and we call it's a cottage within the city. So the few, I talked to the few of my neighbors, and when I came to know about this proposed development, the few things that comes to my mind, one is, as everybody says, I'm echoing it, that the elevation has to be in similar fashion to maintain the uniqueness of that particular community. Estimated increase of almost 200 plus traffic for the cars will definitely gonna increase the probability of the accidents. And as you can see, this community has a lot of seniors as well as the children living there. Some of them has special needs that I have seen. And having this kind of traffic, and a lot of older people are walking their pets like dogs. So I definitely believe there will be a huge probability of increase in the accident because of this nature. So I highly propose, that these points needs to be considered in any further development, as well as to provide the different access point, not through the classic drive, but either through the Queen Street to this proposed community. Thank you. And it's a VIP UL.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that wishes to, oh, come on down, please. You just sign into the register.
Hello, everyone. So my neighbors and everybody have talked about the biodiversity and the environment. I'm going to take this more of a different route. There's about 60 homes that are proposed, and on estimate, there's going to be about 2 to 3 garages per home, giving about 120 to 180 cars. That's going to cause a huge traffic in the area, and I don't know if you guys seen the roads. You can only have one car that could possibly go in that road. Now, there's 2 stop signs from where the proposed road is to Credit View. Now, 2 stop signs plus another 2 stop signs on the other side. And on rush hour time, it's almost impossible to get through. And now add another 200 cars on top of that, it's going to cause an even much bigger delay. Furthermore, because of our small community, we also have a lot of people walking dogs, a lot of kids playing on the playground, on the road itself. And because there's a lot of traffic coming through now, there's going to be a lot of, possible accidents that could happen as well. So because of this reason, I don't think this road especially should be connected. And if you're going to connect this road, then it has to be better planned out in a way that traffic can move more freely. Otherwise, it's going to cause a huge ruckus. Anyways, thank you.
Thank you. I'm just going to ask if there's anybody else that wishes to speak. So through you, Mr. Chair, the first delegate would wish to address the committee again. Usually that's not permitted after you've had your opportunity to speak, but I'll defer to the committee on that.
Thank you so much.
Okay, well, we'll allow them to come back and make a special exception.
Come on down.
I thank the councillors as well as the city for giving me this chance. So I would like to read the petition that we have been getting signed from our community members. Somebody else was supposed to read it, but probably they couldn't make it because of health issues, so that's why I would like to read it. So this is addressed to the Planning and Developmental Department, the City of Brampton. It's regarding application to amend the zoning bylaw, city file number 0ZS 2022-0014. We're writing this petition to express our, in brackets, Pride Court and Links Lane Lionhead Estates community, signed under, concerns. We're highly disappointed to know that the builder is planning to build 60 single dwelling units in our neighborhood and is proposing to convert this elegant, beautiful, executive residential neighborhood into a residential area with relatively smaller dwellings. Our community is called the Historic Estates of Lionhead. We all have been paying a hefty amount of house taxes since 2000 to live in the area, and some new owners have paid a huge amount of money to purchase houses to live in this community. This architecturally unique development is designed in a very desirable country-like setting. We want to ensure that its design and aesthetics remain consistent and preserved during its lifetime as was originally intended and committed by the builder. This proposed plan is not in line with the original commitment and intent of this community, which was to maintain this as an executive residential neighborhood. We would also like to reference a previous precedent where our community came together and we had to remind the city and builder of the commitment made to the residents of this area. Please see an enclosed letter for your reference. So this letter is attached with the petition. We don't approve of an first point. We have discussed as a community and would like to express the following major concerns. One, we don't approve of an agricultural land that is also a heritage property to be converted into a developmental unit. Losing the country-like setting, greenery, and biodiversity of the area is a major point of concern. The proposed structure of these houses is nowhere near to the neighborhood, and that will potentially kill its elegance and beauty that the community has been living here for. We all have been paying a hefty amount of house taxes and for house purchases. Above developments could lead to reduction in the value of the properties in our community, which is absolutely undesirable. The proposed extension of the road, Classic Drive, would cut through our neighborhood, and that will be the only in and exit for the proposed houses. This development will end up increasing the crowd, high-density vehicular traffic in the community, which was developed with no sidewalks. Please note that this neighborhood is not developed to cope with such a huge crowd, and too much density will also hinder larger and emergency vehicles to pass and or turn around. We have already peaked in terms of the capacity to accommodate vehicular traffic. We believe that there will be sewage or drainage issues and are skeptical about how this development will proceed without affecting the drainage of the existing homes. This year, several of the homes in the existing community flooded. We know that these lands used to be marshlands. The proposed extension may lead to further flooding of the existing homes in the neighborhood, as we know through experience that the area has inadequate drainage. Further, in the past, a resident of the Pride Court was approached to inquire whether underground infrastructure under his home could be added to his property to support proper drainage in the new homes planned to be built. There is no place proposed for a playground to accommodate the children in these homes. This creates a concern regarding lack of greenery and would lead to
1 minute left.
Thank you. And would lead to the children going in nearby streets. We would like to request and recommend that the city address the above concerns and consider the following recommendations. Firstly, we do not approve of the proposed plan, but if it is imperative, then as an alternative, the proposed houses must be larger executive homes, having a resemblance to the houses that we already have in the community. This would help maintain the standard, elegance, and value of the properties of the neighborhood. There is a serious issue of where the entry and exit road would be, as mentioned by another community member. Even if it is through Credit View Road, which is shown as one of the solutions, it would be a really bottleneck situation because Credit View Road is a single lane in both directions, and it's an issue even when we go in rush hour these days. Imagine having 200 extra cars going from there. So the proposal that said that we could use Classic Drive, we disagree with it. It should not be used either from Pride Court or Links Lane at the west side of the farmland. A park or playground is extremely essential to the community, more so in this particular scenario. Our community would like to propose to name the park as Ken Williams Parkhead as a tribute to the ex-mayor of Brampton who promoted environmental initiatives in the city. We are open and willing to discuss potential solutions that accommodate the concerns of the existing community. We would like to sincerely urge the city to hear our grievances and support our recommendations. If our concerns are not addressed, then unfortunately, we would have no option but to go to the alternative route of getting legal advice and representation for the community. Sincerely, Pride Court and Links Lane Lionhead Estates community. Thank you very much. This is followed by 72 signatures by 2 hours back, but probably they're growing in numbers as we speak. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So I don't see any further speakers. City Clerk?
Through you, Mr. Chair, no, there are no more delegations, and I'll speak with the delegate after in terms of the petition. I don't think the City Clerk's office has that on file.
Okay, thank you. I don't see any questions, and I guess as one of the area councillors, I'll just ask Alan if you can just remind residents. I think there was some comments to what is happening tonight again, and maybe if you can just provide very quick synopsis again, that there's no decisions being made tonight, that their input, very valuable input, that will all be considered by our planners and when they write the report, and they will have another opportunity when a report comes back to council for consideration, and they'll have an opportunity to delegate again. But all these, so I guess we always get questions from the residents. So all the points that they raised, how do we ensure we capture them in the report, and are we going to be addressing them? Just a quick comment there, Alan, if you don't mind.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. And you have said it well yourself already, but just further to that, it was noted through a couple of the residents, I believe, that there were some concerns that the application was received, and there was some level of upset about the fact that the city has received the application. I just do want to make it clear through to all the residents and anyone listening that with respect to the planning process that applies when it is that development applications are submitted to the city for our review, it is the obligation of the city and city staff to receive all applications. It isn't possible, as per the Ontario legislation, for the city to really not accept any development application, but rather we do have to accept them all and process all of these applications. This meeting tonight is really the first step in the processing of this development application. All of those that are subject to the statutory public meeting tonight are at that first initial step, whereby we do receive all of the comments and suggestions from any interested individuals relating to those applications. The staff are making diligent notes of all of these comments tonight, and we'll continue to do that with any comments that we do continue to receive, as it is that we're processing the applications up to the point where staff are going to be making a recommendation to Planning Committee and Council relating to the applications, whether it is a recommendation of approval or refusal, or perhaps approval with some changes. There are a couple of permutations there. But at that point in time, at this later point, when it is that staff are going to be coming back to committee with a recommendation report, with our recommendations that have considered all of the technical issues, have considered all of the comments that I've received from the public, we will be reaching out to all of those members of the public that have noted their level of interest with this application to make them aware of the fact that the recommendation report is coming forward. And they can choose to, at that point in time, delegate to Planning Committee as well and Council to provide any further comments if they wish to do so. But within the recommendation report, we will very specifically be responding to the issues and concerns, suggestions that were received from the public. At that point in time, Committee and Council ultimately will be making a decision on the matter. And as you rightly say, Mr. Chair, there is no decision occurring tonight. Again, this is just early key milestone in the larger process that is allowing for the full engagement with the area residents to hear their suggestions relating to the matter. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alan, and for that fulsome and technical answer. I don't see any questions from members of the committee, so I do have a motion moved by Councillor Bowman to approve the staff report recommendations, receive the delegations and correspondence. As in the, I guess, are we receiving the petition as well, Peter, or not yet?
Through you, Mr. Chair, there was a petition associated with one of the delegates and their correspondence tonight, but the petition that was referenced, we don't have that in the clerk's office.
Okay, so as listed, the delegations and correspondence and recommendations. Is there anyone opposed? I see none, so the motion carries. We now move on to, I believe it's public delegations. We dealt with 6.1.
6.2 is next.
6.2, and I will hand it over to you, City Clerk, to administer delegation for Michael Gagnon.
Through you, Mr. Chair and members of committee. So we have two delegations on this item. The first is Michael Gagnon. Tammy, if you can bring Michael in. And then after Michael's delegation, Sylvia Roberts is delegating on this item. So Michael, you have up to 5 minutes. Please proceed.
Are you able to hear me, Mr. Clerk?
Yes, we can. Please proceed.
Great. Thank you very much. Good evening, Chairman and members of committee. Thank you for this opportunity to speak to you this evening. I'll try and keep my comments very brief. I'm here this evening representing Jack Rabba of Rabba Fine Foods. Jack Rabba owns the King's Cross Plaza, which is located at King's Cross and Knightsbridge, just down the street from the applicant's property for the high-rise development. My client's site is a little under an acre, and he has about an 8,000 square foot commercial development on the lands that it includes a Rabba Fine Foods. Jack Rabba is active in Rabba Fine Foods, is the founder of the company. He's 79 years old, and he continues to work 7 days a week. He is a very proud Canadian, and he's done very well for himself and all of those who are affiliated with his grocery and fine food chain. I've read the staff report this evening and on the proposed high-rise mixed-use development, and I've got to tell you, I'm a little saddened by the staff report, and the reason I am is that as you can see in the submissions we made previously, and we made 2 of them, we're very supportive in principle of the development. Our client doesn't have a problem with that site proceeding to be redeveloped for high-rise residential, and before you maybe think that our client's happy because he's going to have more potential customers, he's not objecting either to the 40,000 square feet of retail commercial space that's proposed. And that's counterintuitive to what you might think. He doesn't have a problem with the 40,000. What he does have a problem is that the staff have seemed to ignore his very legitimate concerns about the role and function of the various properties that front King's Cross Road in serving the community. And I'll go into that a little bit. In that respect, and when we look at the size of development, when this application first came in, and I made my first comments at a public meeting, the commercial component was about 20,000 square feet. No market study had been filed, and at that time, Jack Rabba and the King's Cross partnership, we raised no concerns with the 20,000 square feet in principle. The revised application now is close to 40,000 square feet. And again, I'll reiterate, Jack Rabba is not concerned about commercial coming to the site. That is not his concern. He is quite content if they redevelop their property for residential. He's happy if they put in commercial space. What the concern, though, is that the staff report has been silent on very legitimate concerns that we outlined in our letters. And any of you who know me in the past 30 years, we do our homework, we dig deep, and we don't like to bring forward frivolous and nonsensical concerns. In speaking to Jack Rabba and looking at the history of this area, and those of you on planning committee who have been around for a while will know that the zoning of the 3 properties on King's Cross, our client's property, the one to the north, and then the applicant's property, if you look at the zoning and in our letters, each of the properties had a very specific list of uses. And the purpose of that, going back in the day when I was a lot younger, the people joke it was when Moses had measles, but when Moses had measles, what happened at the time? We have a minute? Okay, I'll be quick, Mr. Clerk. The zoning of each of these properties was particular to a group of uses, and the idea was that as a collection of sites, you have a broad range of uses. So with that in mind, all Mr. Rabba is looking for are limited prohibitions in the proposed zoning bylaw. And those prohibitions, to wrap up, would be no grocery store or supermarket, no medical office, no sports or back clinic, and no pharmacy and drug dispensary. And these would all be consistent with the intent and purpose and the role and function that the city itself had set up over 25 years ago for the lands in this area. So I wish to thank you for the time this evening, and I do draw your attention to page 117 of the staff report, my final comment. Staff have suggested that they don't regulate competition, but on page 117, city staff have raised the concern regarding the viability of the retail commercial. Not my client's viability, but the viability of the new guy on the block. And that I find a little bit comical and ironic, but I do hope that you'll take our client's comments into serious consideration. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman and committee.
Thank you, Michael. The next delegation is Sylvia Roberts. Sylvia, you have up to 5 minutes. Please proceed.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Please proceed.
Hello, my name is Sylvia. The staff report for this item on assessing the traffic. It says it will have a minimal impact on traffic circulation is technically correct. It's a case of missing the forest for the trees. It misses the big picture of the area, and the financial implications report is also wrong. There are notable financial implications for the site. As I'm sure the area councilors are aware, the traffic on Queen Street in this area is horrendous. That isn't just an opinion. It's while the city has I can no longer access any traffic information data on this site from the city because that's not in the public interest to know about the developments that have not yet been approved. The Region Appeal has an application coming forward in the same area, and so I was able to get traffic impact information from there. And Queen is significantly over capacity. It's not just Queen Street, it's also Bramalea Road. The city is planning for a BRT on Queen Street, and in the long term, this will be beneficial for relieving transportation capacity issues on Queen Street. However, the city needs to actually put in the transit service now, not well, we're going to build the road infrastructure. As we've seen in York Region, building the road infrastructure does not actually get people to get out of the cars and move onto vehicles. You have to actually run the buses. This term of council, the new development has gone in, and the property tax has gone to funding not for that site to fix infrastructure in older parts of the city. I'm aware that Ponzi schemes are a common way to fund cities, but it's a case of the money from those needs to actually go towards the sites. The city needs to significantly increase transportation service in this area, not just on Queen Street, but also on Bramalea Road. The increased service to the GO station at Bramalea GO is going to also lead to a significant increase in traffic on Bramalea Road, including in this area. The city does not seem to have any meaningful plan on how to deal with this. This site is being proposed to be developed. There's another one on the north side of the street. The Region of Peel has submitted applications for building. The city is actively I believe you're working with, Beauregard is the people who own Bramalea City Center. So there's a huge amount of development going in here, but I have not seen any indication the city's actually planning for transportation here. You have to increase the bus service now because the traffic is already here. It's Bramalea Road. The Zoom line on this is significantly overdue. And it's not just in this area. Part of it is the traffic service in Ward 9 in Springdale needs to be improved because if there isn't good transit there, people don't take transit to their work elsewhere. So what happens, they get in their car in Springdale, and then they drive down into Bramalea and then continue onwards. And this is contributing to traffic in this area. And this isn't reflected at all in the financial implications. I've seen no evidence that the planning department really considers well, this development is going to mean we need to ship this many people out of cars and onto transit, and this is what it's going to cost. I don't see that reflected in the budgets. I have never seen any document actually planning to, hey, we should build transit infrastructure and fund the operations of it.
Sylvia, you have 1 minute.
So the issue isn't this application, it's that the city has a pervasive failure issue on planning the budget, transit service, and the staff report for this is an exemplar of just that failure. I know to developers and the planners this isn't a big issue, but as someone who lives in Brampton, this is a serious issue for the city overall. And when we don't, and it's making it difficult for people who I know who live in Brampton, and it's already bad now and continues to get worse. You need to actually plan for this, and it needs to be reflected in the planning reports. Hopefully this will be addressed in the official plan, but it's in the redevelopment of Bramley in this area, you have to do that. Thank you. It's my delegation.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Williams.
Thank you, through you, Chair. I'm wondering if we can bring forward the item 7.3 as well, because there are some pieces in the report that would require some amendments based on what the delegate has shared, the first delegate. I also wanted to ask through you to Michael Gagnon. First, thank you so much, Michael and Sylvia, for coming to delegate. But Michael, I heard you mention 4 areas: medical office, sports, back clinic, grocery, and pharmacy. I understand the piece around the grocery, and especially as you outlined in the report, and I saw that too, the viability of the retail commercial in this building is at risk. We have Fresh Go across the street at the Bramley City Center. We have 2 other pharmacists that I've been in contact with who are also very concerned with the prospect of having pharmacy. I didn't see that so much about the medical office and the back clinic. Is that something, those two pieces, are they willing to see that still be considered on the list as allowed retail spaces?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, to the councillor, in discussing the matter with Mr. Raba, he understands that with the additional population, there is probably going to be a need for more medical offices, and with that sort of this specialty area of sports and back clinics. In the spirit of cooperation, a continued cooperation with the applicant, because we don't want to get into an argument, if the will of Planning Committee were to say the prohibition will only extend to grocery, supermarket, and pharmacy and drug, but allow medical and sports back clinics. I can speak for the client. I've been authorized to say that that would be fine. Don't extend the prohibition to medical offices or sports and back, because that's one area we discuss where we believe that additional uses would be probably advantageous for the community, and really in recognition of the crisis we're having in the medical field of the need for more physicians. So if it's taking the list of prohibitions down from 4 to just 2, and if that is satisfactory to yourself, councillor, and your council mates, that would be fine with Mr. Rava.
That's good to hear, because there is, especially that building does have an emphasis on sports and athleticism with the building that is there. So I'm just thinking, I understand the concern with grocery because of the proximity and the pharmacy and drug dispensary. The owner of 18 Kensington, that pharmacy in 2014, they put up a big resistance to Rexall being built there in 2014. And so they are right on board and with Raba and Mr. Raba to not see pharmacy and drug dispensary there as well. So through you, Chair, to staff, I would like to see an amendment to the zoning bylaw to have added to, I guess it's 3025.1, an F and a G under the not be permitted, sorry. Grocery stores, supermarkets, and pharmacy and drug dispensary. And if I could have that added, I believe that is section 5 of the recommendations. And then it would have to go again under 3026 as well, under E, grocery store and supermarket, pharmacy and drug dispensary. And I know with Morguard, the Freshco is going to be there. That's a large grocery store, very close proximity. So and the good thing is there is still a large amounts of prohibited retail, office, private school, park, playground, convenience store, personal service shop, printing. There's a number of great uses that can be permitted, but I think those two would really hurt the local businesses in the area that have spoken out and reached out to my office and expressed some concern. And there's just one other thing I noticed in through you, Chair, to staff. In 3025, it says retail establishment having no outside storage, but on 30261, it doesn't have the no outside storage. We noticed that as well. And just think that might need to be fixed. It might have just been missed by accident.
Okay, any further, Councilor Williams?
No, that's it. But thank you, and also just thank you, Sylvia, for that delegation. We do hear you, and there is a lot of growth being proposed in this area, and I think it's a lot for us to be thinking about. And thank you, Michael Gagnon, for bringing that to our attention. Like I said, I did hear from other businesses expressing the same concern as well, and we'll take this add this to the amendment to the bylaw. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilor Palacio.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, I just asked for the amendments to be voted on separately. I think it's a dangerous game that we're getting involved with putting decreasing the opportunity for competition in businesses. I have many areas in my wards that have pharmacies across from each other, variety stores across from each other that seem to be doing very well, and I think it's dangerous for the city to be involved in this. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Palacio has requested separating and voting on the amendments. I will take that request, and I will send it, ask you, City Clerk, then how should we administer this?
Through you, Mr. Chair.
Just vote on, yeah.
My advice would be we would take the amendment first and vote on it separately. But just for clarity, I need to understand, Councillor Williams, I believe you're moving an amendment to the zoning bylaw only, not to the official plan. So Charlotte, inadvertently, I think I told you to amend number 5, but it's only number 7 that will be amended. And I just want to get clarity, and maybe planning staff can advise. What's shown in red is the proposed amendment to amend the zoning bylaw as generally attached in Appendix 10 to remove the exceptions related to pharmacy and medical uses. But I know there were other uses that the delegate was requesting would be prohibited, which was supermarket and pharmacy drug dispensary.
Yeah, go ahead.
Through the chair, my understanding in listening to the delegation's discussion is that there would be an amendment that they would be willing to live with. I think Michael Gagnon originated with 4 prohibitions, but then dwindled it down to the 2 that you see in red there.
So just for clarity, so I understand, so then, Councillor Williams, is your intent to approve the staff report with the amendment to the zoning bylaw to prohibit supermarkets and pharmacy drug dispensary?
Yeah, grocery store, supermarket, pharmacy, drug dispensary. So the medical use is not accurate.
So through you, thank you, Councillor Charlotte. I think what it needs to say is amended to prohibit grocery / supermarket and pharmacy / drug dispensary uses. And after that wording is amended, through you, Mr. Chair, if there's a request to take a separate vote on this particular amendment as shown in red, that's within the purview of committee to do so. And that would come first as a vote.
Okay, sounds good.
Mr. Chair, can I add something?
Yeah, go ahead, Commissioner. Yep.
I do have some concerns with the language used here, but amending the bylaw and using words like prohibiting in the zoning bylaw. I suggest that you leave this with staff, and I think we come back to you, and we have to consult with legal as well.
Okay, Councillor Williams, are you okay with for a deferral? And how long do you think you need, Commissioner, in terms of coming back to committee?
We can come back. We can come back to you fairly quickly. I think I just need the time to consult with our staff in planning and in legal.
So, Councillor Williams, it's in your hands.
Yeah, well, does that mean, Jason, you'll come back by the end of this meeting? Do you want to just defer this to...
Through you, Mr. Chair, Councillor Williams, I don't believe we can come back to you by the end of this meeting. To be fair, I think there is really some concerns with the language here, and I don't want to put council in a difficult situation here. So I think we will need at least a couple of days for this.
Oh, a couple of days. Thank you, Jason. Yeah, I do appreciate you making sure that we're not putting yourself in any precarious position. So you want till Wednesday, I believe.
So you can refer this to next. You can refer this to next council meeting if you'd like, Councillor Williams.
That's fine. We'll refer it to next council meeting.
Okay. City Clerk, is that proper?
Through you, Mr. Chair, yes, this is a referral of the item 7.3 to the May 4th City Council meeting.
Okay, great. And Commissioner, that meets your timelines?
That's very good. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you.
All right, we have a referral on the floor moved by Councillor Williams. Is anyone opposed? I see none, so the motion carries. Thank you.
And Mr. Chair, if you could just have a motion just to receive the correspondence and the 2 delegations.
Yeah, and a motion moved by Councillor Williams to receive the correspondence and delegations. Anyone opposed? I see none, so the motion carries. Our next item is, no, that's in consent. City Clerk, our next item, was that the additional item that was added?
Through you, Mr. Chair, it is the added correspondence. The first would be 11.4, and that is correspondence from the clerk's office in regards to a meeting of the Cycling Advisory Committee meeting of last Thursday, I believe, and recommendation regarding advocacy for funding for Ontario Active School Travel Program, and it relates to, I think, the upcoming provincial budget. So the correspondence is on the agenda at the request of the Cycling Advisory Committee for Council's consideration. I wonder, Charlotte, if you can actually bring up the correspondence, just so committee can see what it is that the Advisory Committee is requesting. So through you, Mr. Chair, at its meeting last Thursday night, there was correspondence from Dale Lang, citizen member of the Cycling Advisory Committee, requesting that a position be put forward from the Cycling Committee and that Planning Committee take up this position, and correspondence be sent to all Brampton MPPs requesting that funding for Ontario Active School Travel Program be included in the upcoming Government of Ontario budget. And the urgency of this was requested because the Ontario government budget is soon to be released. And Charlotte, if you can go to the next page, it'll show the actual wording of the advocacy motion, or the advocacy letter, I should say, that the Cycling Advisory Committee is requesting Planning Committee to consider.
Okay, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Councillor Santos, you're the committee rep. Would you like to move it?
Yep, sure. Happy to move. Thank you.
Okay, so we got a motion moved by Councillor Santos to move the correspondence by the Cycling Advisory Committee recommendation on funding for the Ontario Active School Travel Program. Is there anyone opposed? I see none, so the motion carries.
Through you, Mr. Chair, the next item is correspondence 11.6, which is just for receipt. It's just correspondence that was added to the revised agenda about notice updates for Infrastructure Ontario in terms of how notification is provided by the municipal sector to that agency.
Okay, so I believe Chair of Public Works, so moved by Councillor Vicente to receive the correspondence. Is there anyone opposed? I see none, so the motion carries. Councillor question period. Members of committee, are there any questions? I see none. Our next item is public question period. City Clerk, any questions from members of the public?
There are none, Mr. Chair.
Okay, so our last item of business is adjournment, and we do have our next committee meeting is May 16th at 7 p.m. So I have a motion moved by Councillor Willens to adjourn tonight's meeting. That the Planning Development Committee do now adjourn to meet again on May 16th at 7 p.m. or at the call of the chair. Is there anyone opposed? I see none, so the meeting is now adjourned. Thank you to staff and